Keith and Dave talk all things rugby league on the Dockhouse Rugby Show, with news, match reviews and special guests from the world of rugby league. Also available in audio format as the Dockhouse Rugby Pod. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Dockhouse Rugby Show. This week, Dave and myself are joined by Oldham's longest-serving member. He joined the club in 2019 and he's about to enter his 5th season with the Oldham Ruffians. It's the assistant coach there. It's Mr. Brendan Sheridan. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
Brendan, thanks for coming on. It's great to see you. Normally with things like this, we like to know about you as well as obviously what's going on with the club and everything. And we're going to talk about Oldham and how it's going. But what's your earliest memory of rugby league, Brendan?
I started playing when I was 5 and in the same side as Francis Cummins, Lee's legend. I was 5 years old and Josie Moore, the club, played there till I was 15 and signed for Sheffield Eagles. First professional contract. So, obviously growing up as a kid, big club is Josie Moore and in the West Yorkshire area. So it was, I had some good times there.
Yeah, did Keith Mason come through Dewsbury Moor?
Yeah, Keith Mason. There's my brother Ryan came through there as well. So yeah, it's steeped in history with a lot of players that play professionally. So it's it's a very privileged club, and I loved every minute of it.
Good to have a shout out to those clubs, because without those clubs producing players and giving opportunities to children to play, professional game wouldn't have any players. So it's definitely a big shout out to Dewsbury Moor and the other amateur and local community clubs that produce all those players. So it's nice really you've still got the affection for that time in the game, Brendan, when it was a game, playing with all your mates, just passing the ball around and running around before it got serious.
Yeah.
Are we uphill first half or second half?
Yeah.
Both halves.
Yeah. Not when you played at Mount Pleasant. Jesus.
It's been a good breeding ground for you then. That sort of like blooded you into the sport and gave you the love for it. Those grassroots, and like you say, you went on to play professionally. What was your highlight moment as a professional, Brendan?
Just being. I mean, my brother was at Sheffield Eagles at the time, so really proud to, he was 3 years older than me, so he's really proud to, sign for the same club. And I've not really had the flourish in terms of the professional game. It's I had some really bad injuries as a kid, and like I was saying to thing on the phone call is, it's tough. You pick up some injury, but when you've got a family to look after, it's things take over, and that was just the case. So yeah, it was my best memory would be I made my debut against Widnes, but that's the game we were injured in. So.
What was the injury? What was it?
I'd ruptured my cruciate and my cartilages and everything else in there. So there was.
Blew your knee out.
Yeah, I was only 15 as well. So it was. I had 4 years out of the game, 2 knee reconstructions because the operation was done wrong the first time. So it gave way on me straight away. So I've I'm feeling it now.
Yeah.
Like,
same thing happened to my brother. Same thing happened to our Kevin. He was at Salford, and I think he was actually playing for England. He kicked off, and he'd gone to run in and did his ACL and his MCL, and then had a bit of time out, come back again. Like say he was playing at Salford, bump, and it popped again second time, and that was it. He was done then, really.
Yeah. It's one of them injuries back then. There was very rare. It was because we didn't really find out, because I didn't really find out what I'd actually done until the swelling had gone down, and but I just got straight back into training, and I didn't realise how bad the injury was. And I used to play, and then I'd go to Bulper the day after and have my knee drained, and I thought that was it. This is what it's going to be like now for the rest of my life. So, but then I found out what the injury was and how bad it was, and it was devastating because that pre-season I'd trained really well for a young kid, and I got my chance against Widnes, and that's things happen, don't they? And that's sport, and it is what it is, and I've no regrets with anything.
Yeah.
Has that helped you as a coach, do you think, Brendan? So that experience of how tough that was, the expectation, the hope, and then the how tough recovery and that journey is after recovery. Do you think those experiences are helping you now in a strange way, I guess?
That's what drives me as a coach, to be honest. It's because I know how tough it is to try and break through. I know it was many moons ago, but like we spoke before, it's that some of these young kids who are so talented get chewed up and spat out, and I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong how the lack of respect for them coming through the ranks is not appreciated. But the way I coach is, like I said, I coach with empathy. I coach with a desire to connect with players, not just on the field, but personally away from the clubs. And for me, I think that's my goal is if I can create a better person, you're going to reap the rewards on the field, and and I take that a real pride and proud of my approach with that. Might not be the best technical or whatever, but and I always say to my players that no matter what hour it is of the day, it's if you need me, you just give me a ring and I'll be there. And I think to coach from that side of it, you'll learn more from players because they'll open up a little bit more. So because the game's pretty tough as it is, and it's it's good when players open up, and we've all got demons and things like that. But yeah, I love that side of my coaching. It's it's probably the best part of me.
That's brilliant. I totally agree. I think your philosophy and your outlook on it, the empathy and the understanding is paramount in the development of a young person as a person and as a rugby league player. So if you sprinkle some of that into your coaching, I can see it being very successful. And you've had a lot of success and you're doing great things. Can you talk us through your current roles at the moment, Brendan?
Yeah, it's obviously we've not named the head coach yet, so I can't say anything. But my role's changed. It hasn't changed much over the 4 seasons that I've had there. But what I've had the pleasure of working with Matt Diskin first, Brian McDermott, then Stuart Littler coming, and then the privilege of working with Mike Ford. And I've learned a lot from all the coaches. Some what not to do, and some good things I've picked up, but they all have their own attributes. And but yeah, it's my roles. Just like I just said to you before, if I not just players but staff, if I can support them in a way that makes them better people, which in turn will get passed through them to other people as well. So my role is I'll be clipping videos and and sitting with meetings with players and having one-to-ones and trying to get the best out of them, and then just supporting just everybody at the club. I like sweeping the changing rooms up after games and things like that. It's we all have standards, and I try and create standards around me, and that's that's the art of coaching for me is doing the things that others won't.
And that's a great ethos to have there. You like you say, you're giving the team talk. You're that shoulder of support and that foundation of the club. But you're also sweeping the changing rooms and keeping the club clean. And I suppose it's the ethos, isn't it? If you make your bed every morning, gives you great purpose to start your day right and get on. And obviously, when you come home at night, your bed's made. There's another bonus, but.
You're a big advocate for mental health, aren't you, Brendan? And we've recently had World Mental Health Day. It means a lot to yourself.
Oh, yeah, it's massive. I've gone through my own struggles over the years, and it's broken relationships. And that's it. My missus says now is that I'm always there for everybody else, but I don't look after myself. So, but she's great. So that's why that's why I'm doing so well at the moment. But yeah, it's massive. You know yourself in sport. You know, we are young, and you know the pressure there is there now, with clubs picking up young kids at such a young age, and the pressure that has, and later in life that sometimes comes around and bites you in the ass. And for me, it was just personal things from growing up. And like I said, it's, you know, I've had great help from Rugby League Cares and Sporting Chance, um, and like I said, that just adapted myself in my coaching philosophy of, you know, if I've got a better person I'm coaching, they're going to definitely be better players, because the trust is massive. But yeah, it's, you know, we all have our demons, we all have our off days, and World Mental Health Days. You know, it's just an appreciation to look out there, and know that there is people struggling, and I always say this, and I'll post things as well. And it's not to be negative, it's just to be aware of, you know, just checking on somebody. You know, they might tell you they're all right, but just always be available with open arms and an open heart, and I'm sure, you know, that I'm getting rewarded for that later on in my life. So but yeah,
Definitely.
it's a big thing in my life.
Yeah, we do a walk every Christmas, men's mental health. And we don't raise money. It's not about raising money. It's just about getting people out around Christmas time, which is a big pressure time for families and guys and everyone really. So we started it a number of years ago, and we just pick some local walks, just get everyone together, just encourage everyone to walk and talk and chat. And Keith's done a video on one of our walks one year, so we'll probably drop that link in somewhere and people can have a look. So you should try and join us next year.
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
I think we're looking at around the 28th of December around the Warrington area. So there's some
no, brilliant.
nice
Yeah,
areas.
I've got the week off then, so I'm not too bad. I can
brilliant.
recover
We'll
for a
share
few
that
days.
with you.
Yeah.
And those little
burn
things
off the
help.
chocolate.
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
that try and burn some calories off in that Christmas dinner. But those type of things help. Just walking and talking, and as you've mentioned, checking in on people and friends is very worthwhile. So if we can all do a little bit, it all contributes and helps, doesn't it?
No, definitely. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's you don't realise who you're helping as well. You might not get anything in response back, but you know, just people knowing that you're there is a big thing. And like I said, we're stubborn as men, but there is some people struggling out there. So if you are out there, get on the phone to somebody, text your best mate, and just check in on somebody.
Yeah, definitely brilliant advice. We're fully behind that, and checking on people, and yeah, make sure your friends are okay and get involved with things as much as you can. And
also as well, don't be afraid if that person does reach out to you, don't just say, yeah, I'm all right. It's all right to open up to mates. You know, it's good, and we can do it. And I think once you realise you can do it, and people will listen and not judge you, you know, and it's a bold step to do, but do it. You know, we're human. We're not men. We're bones and vessels and liquidy bits, aren't we? You know, we're all the same, really, underneath.
Definitely.
Yeah, create a safe space, non-judgmental, safe space. Share as much or as little as you feel comfortable, and people can build from that. So that's great, but it's something we can all agree on, and we can all keep pushing towards.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
The next topic I'd like to discuss, Brendan, is Oldham Rugby League Club. It's moved on so much. You've seen so much change in the last 6 or 12 months, with new owners coming in and moving to the new stadium and building a very, very strong squad for this year. Can you talk us through that last sort of 12 months since those changes started to happen?
Yeah, it happened pretty quick, to be fair. So obviously we'd started off, 2023 season. We started, November 22, and pre-season we had a good pre-season with the boys, and Stu Littler and myself, and trying to guide the boys into our second season. But like I said, within a couple of days, the club had been sold. And I had a good relationship with Chris Hamilton. I had got a lot of respect for him, and when I was in the coma with COVID, and it did a lot for my family, and I thank him for that. But like I say, but because the game goes week to week and you train, and you don't get time to stop, you don't get time to think. You've just got to roll with the punches. And the new consortium that's come in now with Mike Ford have, they've put some really good foundations in already, and obviously being back at Boundary Park and things like that. Fantastic facilities. We played Workington there back end of the year, and I think there was 1,800 there, and I can't remember the last time we played there. And they were all Oldham fans as well. So, what they're trying to do, they're trying to drive it, and they are doing really well with it. And with the squad that they're bringing in so far, the names that have been mentioned, a championship, some Super League, quality in there. So it's, things are moving fast, and you've just got to keep up with it at the moment. So, but no, like I said, they haven't come in and sat on their hands. They've come in and they've put a lot of building blocks in place, and you've just got to tip your hat to them. That how quick they've worked things out, and they're all player mentality first, which is what I love. How they came in and sold themselves, and I've nothing but respect, for the guys that have come in. They want to put Oldham Rugby League back on the map, and the ambition is in over 3 to 5 years is trying it back in Super League. And people might think, well, yeah, but that's ambition, and you need ambition in rugby league. It gives you something to strive for. So fair dues.
Yeah, and you've bolstered the ranks with like Jordan Turner and Joe Wardle. What do they bring to the table?
It's obviously they've been announced, the first two to get announced, but they just bring a wealth of experience. There's NRL experience in there. There's Super League. They've played Super League for so many years. I think they're both over 300 games, and to play elite rugby at that level for that many times is, what I've got to do as a coach is I've got to tap into that, because you don't have players of that quality and caliber coming in and not learn from them. And I always have the same ethos is that, you never learn anything in rugby league. You've always got to keep learning. Every day is new, and you've got to be a sponge to it. So that's the players as well. But obviously Jordan Turner's is a quality outside back. He's still got. You might lose a yard of pace, but you lose a yard of pace in your mind. So, and Joe Wardell's just a tough cookie. I like him a lot, because he's just somebody that will come out of line and belt you. He'll let you know you're there. So that just by them two signings just shows the market that the club's put down, and where their ambitions are.
Mm-hmm. But how do you think that Oldham in League One were able to convince such quality players to get on board with this new dawn for the club?
Yeah, it's like anything. It's the first thing fans or people outside the club will say is, there's guys that have come in with money, but to sit down with players and to sell the club to the players is what they did. Their ambition, where they want to be in 3 to 5 years' time, and players want to be on board with that. Mike's done some fantastic work in the quality of players he's brought in. So, like I say, everybody will think it's one thing, but it's definitely the ambition that got sold to the players, and why they signed on the dotted line. So it's like I said, fair income to the boys at the top.
I imagine some of the assets that they bring isn't just, as you say, throwing some money at some players to bring better players in. You've got to develop the club as a whole, and that's part of that is the stadium, some of the ethos, some of the values, the ambition, which I guess would encourage some of those players to join you. Can you talk us through any of that background stuff that we may not see as fans that's going on at the club to help build it into a bigger, stronger squad and club for building towards Championship and Super League?
Yeah. It's when Mike came in, the first thing he said is player first mentality, making sure the players have everything. But what I loved about Mike was his approach to the mental side of the game, which is a lot of things I really picked up on about preparation and less is more. And from the outside looking in, it's, I probably do about 30 to 40 hours a week in terms of training and clipping videos and things like that. So, some of the boys are working 60 hours a week, but they're coming in and they're having to bash each other for 3 days and then play on a Sunday. So a lot of people looking from outside in probably don't see the tougher side of things. It's they see the Sundays and boys out for a beer and that. But there's definitely, clubs are driven by standards, and so like any other club, so is ours. And honesty, integrity is instilled from coaches, and the players that we've signed will be instilled from players to player, and then big names that you speak about developing the younger players that have come in and the players that are already there. But yeah, it's there's hard work that goes on all over the place. You could really say that part-time rugby is a full-time mentality, because it has to be. Play on Sunday, if you're training Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're straight back into it mentally. So the mental side of the game's massive. But yeah, Mike brought. He tried to bring in that, and it generated some real good, drive, and hopefully next year the players that they've brought in have signed on the dotted line for them reasons, is being honest and being reliable and being there for each other, and and driving the standards from within.
Yes, huge sacrifice, isn't it?
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry,
I love that little line that you said there. Part-time rugby is a full-time mentality, and that as itself as a foundation has got to put them lads in that mindset that even when they're away from the club, they're still representing the club. They're still acting as a professional rugby league player, although they've got a job somewhere else in the week.
Oh, definitely. It's you start the pre-season, you walk about in your Oldham gear. So whether you're down in London or whether you're up in Scotland, you're still representing not only your club, but you're representing yourself and you're representing your family. Which are the big ones for me. Is it's okay being the greatest player on the field, but having the bad attitude, and driving the club in the opposite direction to what everybody's pushing it the other way. So definitely it's like you said, full-time mentality. It's not you're thinking about the club even when you're at home and things like that. It's not just a switch on, switch off mentality. You've got to be like the boys will be now, and like the coaching staff already putting things in preparation, preparing for the season and things like that. So it's not. I've not really switched off in terms of when the season's finished. I'm always thinking about rugby and my missus.
Page, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's well, that's good for me, because in terms of mental health, it's me having structure and focus is a real big thing for me. So I try and switch off, but I can't.
But people don't always realise the sacrifice that the players make in League One and Championship, and not just the players, but yourself, Brendan, and the coaching staff, and the sacrifices, the amount of hours it takes. It's not just on the training field, but who's come up with plans for training each evening? If you're out on the training pitch for an hour and a half, 2 hours, you're not just thinking up with drills as you turn up. All that is planned beforehand. There's a review of training, the review of individual players, the review of the whole squad, the clipping of videos, the little targets you're setting for people. The hours it takes to produce all that, even at League One standard, is probably just as much hours overall as Championship in League One. So hats off and credit to yourself and the other coaches and everyone in the team. And there's a lot of community work that I've been seeing as well. So, a ladies' team and some engagement with the youth, bringing them along. So, you talk us through some of that community stuff the club are doing.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we spoke about earlier about obviously getting Oldham back to Boundary Park, and back in the heartland, so to speak, and alongside that, I mean, we've connected with the best that we could with the amateur clubs in and around Oldham. But obviously with the new guys that came in, they've really driven that, because Oldham is a family town, it's a family club, and to get the best is get people through the gate, generate the hype, which they have done, and what the big one I noticed over the last 6 months is the amount of young kids that will come into the games, which is where it all starts. it starts, when they're knee high and they're coming through and wearing their Oldham shirts. So, connecting with the local community is probably a big thing. Like I said, trying to generate that heartland mentality, and when people come to Oldham, it's not a good place to come. So we try and make that Boundary Park a fortress next year, and and hopefully get the crowds through. And like I said, we played Workington at Boundary Park our first game, and I think there was 1,700-1,800. So we'd gone from 300-400 straight. So they are there, but it's I think we've got to let go of the past as well, because the future's bright for us. And let's put a line in the sand with spectators, and then just move forward with the club. And if we do that together, I have no doubt that with Mike and everybody in the board driving it from behind there, is the club's on a trajectory. So watch this space.
Definitely, I'm really looking forward to next season and beyond. And I've got a lot of time for Oldham, and I've spent a lot of time there in the past at the club. So I'm really shouting out to everyone and hoping that you do well. And it's not your only job, though, is it, Brendan? You're involved with Ireland as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was Jed Corcoran, the senior coach. I've been friends with him for a number of years. I played for Ireland, so he asked me if I wanted to get on board with the Pathways. It's the first time that Ireland have ever done it. Jed's has really worked hard to drive it, and the hard thing for us is we've got to go over the pond as well. So it's not like Scotland or Wales where they all travel to the same place. We've got to, there's a lot of sacrifice in there, but the pathway that is set up as, it's showing its fruition already. We played our first game of the 16s against Wales. We got a bit of a touch up, but the second game we drew with England, which was a massive result, probably unexpected, but we was unlucky to lose it. To be fair, to draw, but that just shows, not just by myself, but like I said, that the family environment that he's trying to create, and the coaching staff that he's bringing in, and all the staff behind the scenes, and it's all about good people. Good people drive good standards, and good standards creates good people, and in turn creates good teams. So I love what I do there. I'm very passionate about Ireland and my heritage and things like that. It's I was very honoured and privileged to be asked to coach such a prestigious country.
Definitely, yeah. Well, keep us updated with those, and I'll look out for your posts and updates on Ireland. We'll be rooting for you and your players to do.
I'm right in thinking as well, which makes it even more greater. But when players play for Ireland, they don't get paid, do they? That's all a voluntary basis for them as a player. So it's even more the players are giving, because they're giving the time, they're giving up time with the families and everything to go and do that. And like you say, you've got to travel across the pond as well to do it. So yeah, it's a big task, it's a big ask. And how do you manage that with the players? Because obviously, is it ever a problem? Is it never mentioned? Is it?
The thing for starting any pathway system, whether it's an academy or things like that, you've got, you probably fail more times as you succeed in probably 2 or 3 year period. And like I said about the England game, it wasn't a fluke. That's definitely not a fluke. Is that result? We played really well with the young kids, and results like that. The senior squad, obviously, they're not a tier one nation. So like you said, obviously, so when people are selected, they play for the badge. They don't play for the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. We're not Australia, we're not Tonga, we're not England, and teams that are get a fair packet in the back pocket for picking the country. So it's unfortunate because you get players jumping ship, but I get that because players want to test themselves at the highest level. But it's what we've got to be careful of, and the game in general is that that Ireland and teams of tier 2s are protected, that players can't just jump ship and things like that. And I think that's where the game could be a little bit better, is protecting us and the teams around us. You know, your Frances and your Wales is that when these people, you know, sign on that dotted line, or they put their hand up to play for the country and their heritage, they've got to take that seriously. And the Irish boys, you know, and the young kids up to the seniors, you know, who is it? Luke Keary came over from Australia. You know, he's on over $1 million a year, and the reports I got back from the staff at the World Cup was he's the most grounded human being that people have ever met. And that says everything. But it was, you know, it was really passionate about playing for Ireland, and that's first and foremost. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to drive the game in a whole, as a whole, and that's, you know, that's protecting the tier 2 nations and below. Because if it's a bigger world sport, I'm sure it creates a better fan base and, you know, and better internationals, where we could probably in years to come, you could have a 3-test series against England v Ireland, or whichever way you want it, which is probably the end goal, is being a tier one team. So, but yeah, it's you know, it's moving forward, which is good.
Yeah, and you favour the tri-series is at the end of a season, in between sort of like big international competitions.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you know yourself, you know, I used to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and watch Great Britain against Australia, and you know, and the sad thing is young kids they don't get to see that anymore. You know, the Great Britain, the Australias, you know, and touring teams. And I get with the 2 competitions, it's tough. But at the end of the year, it's, if there's something for somebody to strive for, whether it's an England or a Wales or something like that, it's only going to benefit the game.
Yeah.
But I think we need to really drive it hard, because we're just not competing with the over, you know, the South Islanders and the Aussies and the Kiwis at the moment.
What's your thoughts on maybe possibly like every 4 years having a Great Britain and Ireland touring side and doing a series either against the Aussies or you know, the Oceanic tour as it were?
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, probably that's the end goal for all international teams is to be able to travel, and the only way you do that is you've got to start the grassroots. You know yourself, you've watched the games for a number of years, and you look at the players that they can produce in Australia, and they could probably have 3 teams that could play against, you know, England at the end of the year. But yeah, it's as a player, it's the biggest honour, isn't it? You know, the end of the year playing for your country, and you know, if we could get to that, you know, like they did back in the day, it's only
olden days. We're old, Dave. Now we're old.
Yeah, it's only going to benefit the game. You know what I mean? It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and it was a great spectacle as well. You know, me and Dave, as kids, we travelled the country. Sometimes when you think back, Dave, how we got there, like jumped in people's cars, parents took us or got dropped off, got the train on many an occasion to an international game, and you know, it was a fantastic spectacle and such a great.
6 of us in the back of your dad's Volvo with no seat belts. Going to games. I remember those days.
Yeah. Happy days.
Yeah.
And it was -3 outside. He could only see through a little square like this in his frozen window. The heaters didn't work too well. I remember him shouting at someone coming back. Someone was beeping at him. Do you remember that?
I do.
And he's hanging out the window. He's threatening him.
There was all kinds of profanities.
Don't you beep at me. And the guy went, "No, I'm just saying your brake lights out, mate." "Oh, sorry."
My dad went,
"Cheers,
mate." Bear in mind, my dad had given him a mouthful of language, and then he went, when he told him about the brake light, my dad went, "Cheers, mate." It's your best pal.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
That's where Keith gets his temper from. Must be.
Right.
Yeah. Tungsten tipped, quick tempered.
Yeah, but the great memories, aren't they? Great days, about fantastic games, as you say, getting up so early. It just meant so much to you to watch that, and you get to see players you wouldn't normally see from Australia, and some of the club players who you maybe didn't see too much of because there wasn't as much on TV then. And if you only got through a few games per year, I remember Phil Ford, the stepper. It's a classic.
Rubber man, he's Rubber man.
The Rubber man. You know, there's some iconic occasions that I remember watching live, and it's a shame that that's kind of drifted out the game.
Yeah.
It's so important for the game. I'm a massive fan of international rugby league,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we've lost our way a little bit with that.
Yeah.
I understand why the club game's so strong. The clubs pay the players a lot of money, want to protect them.
Yeah.
The game's so powerful down under, and with so many good quality players. But we need a way of wrestling it back. And
that's the thing, mate. Is that you look at Australia? You know, they're playing this trans-international, you know, series over there, and 20 years ago that was us over. That was England over there. That was, you know, I mean, I remember when I first, you know, when Sky first came out, and it was when Phil Clark scored. We beat them in '92. You know, and just waiting for that game, and you know that tour itself. When
excited,
it was just great because they were a midweek game and then a test, and then you know it were a proper tour. But yeah, when we should be, you know, we should be playing against each other, and you know, it's a long way off, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's become a business industry, hasn't it? The NRL.
Yeah.
Those memories are strong because that was 30 years ago, and we're talking about it like it was yesterday. That's how imprinted. Was it Roy Powell who played in every single game in that tour?
Yeah,
all the club games and the internationals.
Yeah.
And there was it was a prop forward that they phoned up. He was on holiday in Greece.
I remember, and in that test, I think Paul Broadbent and Mark Aston got called in to play one midweek game. I think they'd gone out to watch the series out there, and then ended up getting called up.
Have you brought your boots?
Fancy a game. Like you're on a Saturday down at amateur club. Fancy a game, fellas.
Don't turn up half an hour before kick-off. You'll be playing.
We talk about the good old days there, but it's only in a couple of years. The 80s will be 50 years ago, half a century.
Wow. Oh, don't say that.
Don't
say that.
Yeah,
I don't remember it myself, Keith.
No, I was too young.
Too young or too drunk, one of them.
Yeah. The latter part of the 80s is probably pre that, but I was only 12-ish, around there, mid-80s.
Ish. No, brilliant memories, and hopefully the work you're doing with Ireland, Brendan, is contributing to improving the international game at all levels. So, as I said before, we'll definitely be rooting for you, and hope it all goes very well.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Dockhouse Rugby Show. We hope you've enjoyed it, talking with Brendan about his career, his time as a coach, and more importantly, the mentality that he puts into the game and the mental health awareness that he has as his ethos and surrounds himself around. And if you want to get involved in that, we'll put some little mentions for charities within the comments section, any that are close to Brendan's heart and to myself and Dave. But thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to leave us a comment, and we'll see you next time on the Dockhouse Rugby Show. Don't forget, after tonight's show, leave your views in our comments section. We'd love to hear from you. Keith and Dave talk all things rugby league on the Dockhouse Rugby Show, with news, match reviews and special guests from the world of rugby league. Also available in audio format as the Dockhouse Rugby Pod.